All right, what's up, guys? Today I'm going to walk you through my explanation of the value that Palantir has for the future of business, really. I'm a software architect. I've been doing this for 20 years, and I think I have a unique perspective on how I see Palantir software integrating with the businesses that I'm working with today. And we're going to kind of go through some of the challenges we face not having a system like Palantir's, and where Palantir is really improving the ability for business to function at a fundamental level. So first thing you got to understand is that in the software industry, things are changing. We are moving from a human-centric software system to humans at the edges. This is happening industry-wide. This isn't particular to Palantir, but it's in response to the big data revolution and machine learning revolution that's taken place over the last 10 years. It's really transforming businesses into organizations that need to surface signal data and then act on that data, right, autonomously without getting humans in the way to either commit fraud or slow the system down by making mistakes. So this is just a general industry trend, and this is really the way we're building software now. And in response to this, business is also changing at a fundamental level. You can't think of businesses today as single entities. They're not siloed in the same fashion that they were. And so really what's happening is that we're building consortiums, like business consortiums, that operate together in a semi-trusted environment that's driven primarily by private blockchain, right? So HyperLeger Fabric from IBM is the industry standard tool for private blockchain today. And what this allows us to do is do things like where contracts can be codified, business processes can be codified in a way in which there's in a somewhat trustless environment to where I know that your organization isn't going to do things like funnel off every trailing penny into an account where you're committing fraud. We can have contracts where we all agree on the same code, we all run the same code in this sort of semi-trustless environment. And I know that the code that's being executed hasn't been tampered with or changed by you. And you can't do things like hide your supply chain tracking or anything like that. So you can imagine that these organizations imagine this is a supplier of chipsets, and this is a manufacturer of a device, and this is a distributor, right? And this is an organization selling your product, right? And these aren't like one-to-one mappings. These same businesses can participate in multiple consortiums. And so this is really how businesses are transforming as well. And so you're starting to see this new way of doing business where there's a lot more autonomous software running on the blockchain, and signal data is being used to sort of trigger these transactions, right? And this is happening today, right? These are all business consortiums that exist today using blockchain, okay? So this isn't like hypothetical or like anything like that. It's being used heavily in supply chain management, autonomous vehicles. There's all kinds of applications that are already taking place. So just understand that this isn't like, pie in the sky ideas. This is things that are actually taking place today. So this is a massive challenge for software developers, right? So we are completely changing the way we build software. We have been for 20 years almost, hugely in response to cloud computing, but also to machine learning and big data, right? And so we do a lot of distributed transactions. We do event streaming. We're doing a lot of query of big data. We're doing feature engineering against big data. We're doing model training and inference. We have hybrid infrastructures because a lot of times you got to move your compute closer to your data. And there are massive new security challenges that come with all of this. There are whole companies meant to solve this problem. Like Snowflake is a company who exists primarily to solve the problem of being able to use data without sharing it, right? And to provide really good capabilities to query data, right? But also to store it and keep it secure. So there are whole companies that are dealing with subsets of these problems. And just to give you an idea, like these are some reference architectures I'm going to run through that we run on AWS that typically deal with some of these key problems. But you don't need to understand what these architectures are necessarily doing, but you should understand that they're complicated, and we're all building them in slightly different ways that have certain deficiencies. We're all making similar mistakes. When I say we all, I mean like every company out there that's transforming its business right now. So like this one is just showing like we're using Amazon SageMaker to do model training, and then to get we're also using a lot of tools in this data extraction layer to do things like we call map and merge pipelines, where we clean up raw data and make it production ready. We merge it with other data sets to give it context that the models use to do things like entity extraction. So this is a really complex process, and again, all companies are kind of building it the same way, right? Or they're trying to anyway. They're trying to use best practice, but they're all making a certain category of mistakes, and they're all making the same ones. It's kind of highly inefficient. This is natural language query. So like a long time ago, Google moved over to letting AI and machine learning power search. And so today it's about things and not strings on Google. Well, it's all driven by a category of machine learning called natural language processing and entity extraction. And it supports this idea that you can query data in the same way you talk about data with other humans, right? And so this is a big one that we're doing. A lot of companies are, again, engaging in solving this problem. Another one is event streaming. This is a new architecture that I'm prototyping right now that handles event streaming, where we basically assume eventual consistency in the system and optimistic updates on the client. And we're not worried about what we call read after write consistency, but there's huge categories of problems in computer science that emerge when you start to try and do this. But the reason we want to do it is because we want to collect every piece of data coming through the company so that we can use it in this layer down here, right? This is our data analytics layer, and it can surface signal data. And signal data is really what we're interested in right now, because it's going to allow our business to move faster and compete against other businesses that are quickly adopting these technologies and moving to this business consortium model. So this is super important to understand. And here's another challenge: is this a FAAS architecture, which we call functions as a service, which is really in response to event streaming, that we're building these lightweight functions that execute. We're not building like monolithic software anymore. And again, you don't need to understand these diagrams, but just understand there's a lot of complexity hidden underneath this transformation that's happening. And so what is Palantir, right? Like, what is it? What does it do? Well, it's a big data OS. It takes all of these tools that we're implementing in all these various architectures I just showed you. Yeah, all these tools wind up in them, right? And it's ultra complicated to get those systems right. Well, what if there was a company who gave those to you in a predefined way, in a best practice way, that lets you surface signal data and build autonomous contracts that run on the blockchain without you reinventing the wheel and making all these mistakes, right? That's what Palantir is, and fundamentally, I think so. I don't have the software, I don't use the software. Based on my research into their company, which we're going to go into my research here, that's what I believe they are. Apollo, people don't know what Apollo is. It's continuous integration and deployment for their software. It's made up of a couple of different components. They have this thing called Skylab, which is basically what does the actual deployment. And Apollo is like a manager for Skylab. It lets them scale out their deployments to absolutely unbelievable numbers, right? I think recently there was a press release out. I think they're doing like 100,000 deployments a day or something. It's usually continuous. It's not like per day. It just happens over a period of time. You'll get X amount, but I think they're up to like 100,000 or something. So this is a really cool platform. There's a great article about it that you can read on Medium, where they go in detail about the Apollo system. I can provide a link to that document in the description. Just understand this is how they deploy their software, and it is very cool the way they built it. Gotham is like the map and merge pipeline. Okay, so like let's go back to a few slides where I was telling you guys there's a lot of complexity in this layer here: data extraction, feature engineering, all the things we do to make data meaningful and give it context and build what we call a knowledge graph out of the data. Yeah, that involves multiple teams. That's where all of the money is that you're spending when you're doing machine learning. This is where all the risk usually is, because if your data's crap, your models are going to be crap. And so, yeah, this is like the number one reason organizations fail to capitalize on machine learning is this piece right here. So I can't overstate enough how important Gotham is for allowing organizations to get meaning out of their data, right? They have to clean data up. You have to link it with other data sets to give it context, so you can train models that do things like recognize entities in your document. An entity is like a thing, right? And we'll get more into that in a little bit, but understand that's what Gotham fundamentally does, and it provides a secure way to manage that data and use it when you're doing these map and merge pipelines, and to tag it and provide some additional features for your models, right? So this is really cool. Life without Gotham is painful, right? So this is sort of again a high level blow up of the complexity of that one layer where we're doing data extraction. This is just a blow up of like what we're actually doing when we're running these ETL pipelines to actually join it with additional data. You can see here we're sort of, this enriched set makes its way out to the set that's used for the model to train the model on. But this is actually still a high level presentation, or a high level diagram. Foundry, so Foundry is its data streaming and signal discovery. So this is super important. Okay, remember I was telling you we are doing these architectures right now for event streaming, right? We're building all of this from scratch, and we're making mistakes all the time when we do it. Remember, there's a lot of complexity around here, doing distributed transactions and doing optimistic updates on the client, where you have what we call eventual consistency in the system. And so there's a lot of ways to do that wrong, and there's usually one way to do it right. And so by having a platform that's going to allow you to do data streaming and to do signal discovery, this is huge. I mean, this is the thing we need right now that is going to solve so many problems, and it's going to destroy the way in which we use ERP and CRM in our organizations today. So Foundry is really cool. I can't wait to learn more about this product. Another thing I did is I reviewed all of Palantir's open source projects, or some of them, not all of them. They have a lot. And man, do they have their shit together. Like, they had a tool that they built that I've used for years that I didn't even know I was using. It's a linter for TypeScript. I didn't know that they actually made it. Well, they did. And they actually have some amazing work in React, which is a front-end framework we use to build most of our applications. They're using TypeScript. That's awesome. They've been using it for years. And TypeScript is super important because it allows you to take advantage of set theory when you're building software. This allows you to reduce an entire category of bugs. They have distributed databases for managing, like I was telling you, these distributed transactions. So they have a custom build of Spark. Like, it's all well documented. It's beautiful. Okay, so for sure, this company is a company built by engineers, being run by engineers who know how to program software. That is huge. This is not fakery. This is not some idiot out there who's like a good talker who's trying to build a software company to know anything about it. These are made by, this company is founded by people who are fantastic engineers, and all of their open source is amazing. I encourage you to check it out on GitHub if you haven't already. So what does this mean, right? Like, what does this mean? It means that ERP and CRM is dead, okay? This effectively means that the way we do business today is going away, and this is going to affect some major players in a big way. And more importantly, human-centric software is dead. It just doesn't know it yet, right? This is a photo from the Amundsen expedition where all these people died as being a result of being trapped in the Arctic ice. But anyway, I like to point to this as, like, you know, the writing's on the wall, the industry's moving, and the way we do business today is done. It's going to take a long time. Like, I'm not saying it's going to happen tomorrow. We're talking decades here, but there's no going back, okay? So we're out on the ice. It's sink or swim, and Palantir is going to take a sledgehammer to all of these companies, right? So get ready, guys. And why is ERP going to die? Like, everyone hates ERP systems. This is a net promoter score of all of SAP right here. And this is a high net promoter score. Like, I have net promoter scores that are negative for most of the ERP systems and plugins that we use, right? This stuff is ERP systems. I don't even know how to categorize it. I won't even categorize it as software anymore. It's like, it's just this conglomeration of all these old crappy systems that people still use. It's like a way to prop up bad software and call it something to make money at it and sell it to people for ridiculous amounts of money and pretend that it adds value to your organization. It's more about compliance. It's more about people doing things the way they've always done them than really trying to innovate. So see, ERP and CRM, it's going to die. People are not happy about it. They don't like these platforms. They need a better way to do business that is going to leverage artificial intelligence, leverage machine learning, use signal data to take autonomous action in a business consortium, and that is not going to happen with ERP, okay? So Palantir has some immediate challenges that I want to talk about because the case for Palantir in the short term is vastly overstated, and there are a lot of ways this company could fail. As good as they are, as great as their product seems to be, there's just things related to building SaaS software that are never going to change, right? So multi-tenant architecture in a SaaS system, that's tough. This is not an easy thing to do, okay? Developer tools, yeah, they don't have any really. Like, I'm not able to go and try their software on a platform and use their APIs. I can't sign up and get a developer key. Like, they need that. They're going to have to do that before this thing's going to take off. Also, solutions versus SaaS. So like in business, guys, solutions teams and SaaS platform teams, they don't have the same business model. Okay, so like when we create solutions teams for our software companies, we funnel our clients into solutions when they need something custom in the system, but they are different teams with different business models, and they can be separate organizations. Even a lot of times we'll create channel partners and we'll just funnel all solutions through channel partners. Like most CRM systems do that today. So they fundamentally, Palantir has been a solutions company. They are not a SaaS platform company. And so they have to find a way to transform. Now, almost all companies start out this way. Look, Salesforce started out this way. Okay, so it's just natural part of evolution of a startup that gets a few core customers, finds some really cool technology, but it's highly customized for those customers, they need a way to offer it to the masses. But they're working on that. They know that's their primary thing they have to do. So I have no doubts they're going to work on it. But there are a lot of ways to fail internally as a result of people fighting over where the revenue is going to come from in the short term. So keep that in mind. They also have massive competition. So Google, IBM, and Amazon are all zeroing in on this right now. They all have their own competitive solutions that are either out already or coming out. So you have to recognize there is competition to Palantir. The main competitive advantage of Palantir is the fact that it has had access to the treasure trove of data that the US government has collected for 50 plus years. Okay, no data set on earth can come close to that data set, and they know it. There's this thing in artificial intelligence and machine learning called transfer learning. It's where you take a model that's been trained on one data set and then you apply it to your data set. You can actually take that base model and customize it for your purposes. It's like, having a really smart person who's now going to take that intellect and put it on a category of problems you have, right? Same kind of thing exists in machine learning. So the Palantir's competitive advantage here is the data that the US government gave them. This is part of that court case as well, a famous court case. Why was the US military the biggest challenger to Palantir's business? Because they own the data, right? And they know that, like, well, if we own the data and we could just have these models, like, why do we need you, right? And so I think fundamentally this is their competitive advantage, though. They won that case. They have the IP now. Those models can be used in other applications, and they're going to outperform Google, IBM, and Amazon. Amazon's models are a joke anyway. Fundamentally, they're just not that good. Google, on the other hand, I'd watch out for them. Education and messaging, this is more PR stuff that they have to work on. So let's get into this challenge with SaaS. I want you guys to understand that when we build SaaS platforms, there's what's known as a silo model and a pool model. The pool model is like share everything. We share all of the compute and underlying infrastructure, and we use policies, security policies, to determine who has access to what. Palantir's business model is a silo model. That's what Apollo is designed to effectively deploy. Every customer gets their own infrastructure, but this can be super tricky to scale. Okay, there's higher infrastructure cost. It's easy to get wrong. So like migrating tenants from one infrastructure to another is a pain in the butt. It's way more complicated for DevOps. I mean, dude, seriously, trying to manage like 50,000 environments, good luck with that. Your customers are going to have to do a lot of work, okay? And you're going to have a pretty massive team and infrastructure. So this is tricky to scale. And they're probably working right now, I'm guessing, for the enterprise clients on a pool model. They're probably not going to scale their software eventually under this silo model. So, but that's a major transition and it's a major cost, and they're going to need a hell of a lot of money to do it. So just keep in mind, this is one of the underlying risks that you're taking when you're talking about Palantir's future here. Again, I talked about this before, solutions versus SaaS. They don't meet, okay? Like these two things don't come together, okay? Let's just stop pretending. Custom solutions require different channels and different teams. They have different business models. So Palantir's going to have to find a good way to break up solutions and put them in their own business unit or offer it as channel partner solutions, something. But they can't build a SaaS platform that's going to rival ERP systems unless they get rid of their solutions teams or find a way for them to coexist. This is a problem all software companies face, though, okay? So there's lots of great literature out there on how to do this. They already employ people who wrote some of those books. Peter Thiel has some great vision on how you do this. So I have no doubts they're going to solve this problem relatively easily. Here's one they have a real challenge with. So Google, I said earlier they have the best data set available. Google also has an amazing data set. There's 500 billion facts on 5 billion entities in the Google Knowledge Graph. That's insane, right? And this data and this knowledge graph is the key thing for building models, right? And for building these platforms that are going to surface signal data so that autonomous business contracts running on blockchain can be executed, okay? So Google is a huge problem for them. They could crush Gotham too. Google has solved all of these SaaS platforms, guys, so that they don't need to invest in all of this infrastructure. They're ready to rock. And so Palantir, I would advise you to buy Google. I can't advise you, actually. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not giving you financial advice. What I'm going to say is I bought Google, right? So like I bought Google, I bought Palantir. Anything can happen. Again, I'm not giving you financial advice. I'm just trying to give you an insight into the technical world and sort of where the challenges are here. And Google's knowledge graph is potentially a huge problem. Now, Google has open sourced a portion of their knowledge graph, so like the public has access to it, but they don't have access to all of it. And of course, that data set is growing every day, right? So this could be a challenge for Palantir. So I'm investing in Google and I'm investing in Palantir. Bottom line, yeah, I'm investing in Palantir, right? So I see huge upside potential for this company. I can't wait to get my hands on their software. Like I can't wait to start applying it to the category problems that we have in our business, right? So like Palantir, if it delivers on half of what it says it does, it's going to change the way we run our organizations. So yeah, I'm heavily invested in Palantir. If you like this video, I got future ones coming on other investments I'm making, in energy and ARM chips and cloud providers and blockchain. So if you like the video, give it a like and stay tuned.